Hi, I'm John Landell Flutes in Richmond, Vermont. I'm a flute maker, private individual flute maker. And I'm going to talk today, this is a kind of a selfie homebrewed video that I want to put up on YouTube that would hopefully help people who are looking at a new flute or trying flutes, trying to find out the qualities of certain flutes that they may be interested in buying or playing. Many people don't know about the kinds of details that go into deciding whether a flute is going to be reliable and whether it's really going to be perform well in good performance situations. So as a flutist, I've done quite a bit of playing, and I know what the requirements are for what sort of flute you need, and I know that there are a lot of flutes that are not up to quality at all. So in this lecture, I'm going to try very much not to talk about the poor quality flutes. And believe me, there are plenty out there, and you've seen them all. What you don't know, and what you probably should really know a lot more about, is how do you test a flute? How do you look and try and hear and listen and blow and analyze the important things that have to do with how a flute is going to work and how it's going to perform for you when you're in a performance situation. So to do a quality check, one of the things that you really need to know is how's the scale. That's probably the first and most important thing, because when you play with a piano and the piano is well in tuned, you need to play in tune, because the piano is going to show you who you're not if it's a poorly tuned instrument that has been made to an old scale. And the flutes have, since about 1973, have been made to a newer and more well calculated scale. So generally speaking, you can tell that flutes that are back in the probably 1990s, in most cases they're going to be tuned to an A435, which is too low to play at modern pitch and in situations today. So I'm going to show you how to analyze the scale and tell what kind of scale it is. Then I want to tell you about the pads and how you find out just by playing the flute. You don't have to have the techniques that I have for really checking and finding leaks in the pads, but you should be able to play the flute and hear where there are problems and where they're not working well. And then the other thing you need to worry about and be very concerned about is the mechanical quality of the instrument. How are the mechanism, the keys, the fit, the body, and so forth. How's the case? All sorts of mechanical things that we're going to look at and help you to decide whether this is a good quality, or if you're going to be at a repairman's shop every week or month or even every year. Really, ideally, a flute should last a long time. If you bring it in for a clean oil and adjust, and I want to emphasize this every year, annual clean oil and adjust, your flute should last for 100 years and probably much longer than that. So it's really worth the investment to go to find a good repairman who knows how to do that for you and to do it well and really have your flute maintained. So I have a flute here that I've been working on for just a couple of months. This is a Landell flute that I made in 1980, and it's a gold flute with silver keys. And this flute was actually made with the single axle thumb key, which is the popular design that you'll see on almost every flute today. But this is something that the owner wanted me to upgrade, and I've done that. Took off the original thumb key. I haven't been using this the whole time I've made flutes, and I hope you can see that the problem that the double axle thumb key will resolve for you is the side-to-side play. If you pick up a flute and you hold it in your hands like this and try to move the keys from one side to the other sideways this way, the keys shouldn't move at all. They should be nice and snug, and they shouldn't wobble. And the reason for that is when you play B flat with the Berchaldi thumb key, if that's wobbling at all, you're going to be able to pull this lever and it'll change the connection for B flat, which is pushing down the B flat key at the same time you press this key. So that's one of the things that you really should look at when you're looking at a new flute. How is the fit? Does the foot joint wobble on the center joint? Is there any movement sideways, this way or this way? That foot joint should be snug, and this is really good. This is really snug. Maybe a little too tight because it kind of like that, but I can loosen this up just a tiny bit with some sandpaper, and that should slide on there so nicely. A tight fit. Now you hold the foot joint. When you put the foot joint on the flute, you've got to do it right. Put the keys underneath the palm of your hand. Do not hold the flute this way by the end and try to put it together that way. That is very dangerous, because what you'll do is you'll do this sort of action, and that will make the end of the center joint where it fits in, tapered, and eventually, fairly soon, that foot joint's going to really wobble. So hold the flute with your hand over those 3 foot joint, or if you have a C foot, the 2 keys on the foot joint, and turn towards you like that. And always turn the same direction, turning it this way to put it on, and again, when you're going to put it together, turn it the same way to put it on, towards you. And you'll feel it line up, and that's because you've got a good hold on it. You don't want to push it on there and wobble it on. And then the head joint and the center joint should go together very easily. And you want to put it on here so that you know you've got the right angle. So, when the first time you play the flute, to try it, to see are the pads working, play softly and let the chromatic scale go down slowly. Put your fingers down slowly, don't press hard, and listen to the sound between each note as you're playing the descending chromatic scale. And if you hear the sound, if you hear the air stop, if you hear it da, that means there's a leak. There's an adjustment problem, or a pad is leaking, one or the other. The sound should go right away from one note to the next without stopping. I'll do that, and don't play loud, just play gently. F is usually the one that's going to be a problem. If there's going to be a problem, it's that usually right there. The sound doesn't stop. It just keeps right on playing, goes right to the next note without quitting. When you get down to the low C, just push on the roller, just on the roller, not the roller on the lever at the same time. Everything's working fine. I've been working on this flute a lot to get that to happen. Believe me, it's been on my bench too long. So I'm going to listen to mechanical clicks. Listen for any sound that goes mechanically click, click. You don't play the flute. Listen as you play the chromatic scale with the keys. Do you hear anything clicking, clacking? Nice and quiet. Okay. Now feel the spring tension on the keys. Are some of them lighter than others? Are some of them heavier? Usually the F key will feel heavier because there's 3 springs involved, but you've got the left hand down, it's only going to be 2 springs, and that should feel even with the other keys as well. And it's easy to change the adjustment of spring tensions. but you do have to take the flute apart and bend the spring a little bit around your thumb so it's not bending right as it comes out of the post. The B flat connection for the thumb B flat, pushing down the B flat key, you want to listen to that, and especially when you play a high F. If that's off at all, your high F isn't going to be playing well, that's usually another problem having to do with the 1-1 fingering for F. See, that's my 1-1 fingering. First finger right, first finger left, and the thumb. That's not the thumb key. How's high F sound? With the thumb on the B flat key, does it work? So those are things to check. Oh yeah, another thing to check. With an inline flute, we're not talking about offset G's now, we're talking about the G keys in line with the rest of the flute. You should be able to play high F to F sharp without anything binding at all. Now if I press really hard on the G keys, if I pressed hard, I can make it bind, and it holds down the B flat key. The G key, when it's not adjusted properly, it will do this on some flutes. And so if you're going to play a chromatic scale to high F sharp, E, F, F sharp, then the F sharp's not going to come out. That's going to be another problem to get resolved. How's the F sharp? You have two fingerings for F sharp, middle finger and third finger. If you have any doubt, you can use this finger, first finger up here on the F sharp key when you're playing F sharp. See, I'm pressing on the F sharp while I'm playing F sharp. If that sounded any different when I pressed on this key, you'd know that the connection wasn't right. And usually there's a screw adjustment on most flutes that help you to do that well. But that's for the repairman to do. Okay? So those are mechanical issues. You want to look at the flute this way. Hold it in front of your eyes and move the keys sideways and see if there's any movement in the keys. Now the G key, okay, the G key, this key, it's okay if that one has a little side play, end play, we call it end play. But the other keys should not have any movement at all. You should be able to move that key sideways and not feel any movement at all. And the same thing here. There's a pivot point on the top of the B flat key right here where this the screw comes through this key and ends at a pivot. Now that you want to make sure it's not moving sideways this way, laterally. And the same with the trill keys. The trill keys have a pivot screw here, and those should be solid without any movement side to side. And down here at the bottom of the trill key, the same thing. You don't want to see any movement right here where that trill key ends, or here where at the right hand, at the bottom of the right hand key. So obviously foot joint, feel for side play, none. You're good. You're good to go. If there's side play, you'll get clicks. And it's just a matter of time because these keys are rubbing against each other. The whole time you're playing, the ends of the keys are rubbing against each other while the keys are turning. So there's wear at the ends of the keys, and eventually there's going to be more and more of a gap. So when we do an overhaul, like I've just done for this flute, we have ways of stretching those keys and making it so that there isn't any movement at all in those side play. Okay. Another thing to check for is lost motion. I'm looking at the right hand keys now. The F key is always the primary place that we look for any backlash. Backlash it means that this key, F key, will move slightly before it picks up either this one or this one on the way down. So you want to watch and see that there's no lost motion or play in those keys. And here at the A key, I'm going to look for lost motion here. And on the thumb B flat, that's another place. Make sure there's no lost motion at all on those keys. So those are the basic, like, fundamental mechanical issues that all of us have to worry about and to think about when we're looking at your flute when it comes in for work, whatever that might be. One more thing, how does it fit the case? Okay, these French cases are not good protection for flutes, but everybody's got them. Everybody's using these cases. So let's see how this flute fits in this case. Okay, no end play, nothing moving end to end. You see that? There's no end play. And when we close the case and shake it, nice and quiet. Keys aren't rattling, the body isn't rattling, and when you take this to the UPS or to the mail or something to ship it through the mail, if that flute's rattling inside the case, it's going to rattle from all the way from here to there. And by the time it gets there, the keys aren't going to be working very well. So just be mindful of your case. Please, if necessary, get a new one. And I can put in a plug here for a case that's really inexpensive. Nobody's paying me to do this, but I've looked at the ProTech cases. They are really good protection for a flute, and they're not expensive. So I'd highly recommend those cases if you need to replace the case that you have. So now I'm going to turn my camera around after I put the flute together and talk about the scale. Because your flute has to play in tune with itself. Okay, that's the first, most important thing to think about. Can I play in the key of C and the key of D flat or the key of E or F or B or G or whatever? Can I play in tune with myself? And then, what is the pitch for the A when I have my flute in tune with itself? So the question is, how do you know if the flute's in tune with itself? Well, you have to have the head joint pulled out just the right amount for A to be where scale was designed for. So if this flute was designed for A440, French model, the point where this head joint is pulled out to the right space, you're going to have perfectly in tune A, a low C that's perfectly attuned with the C above it. So how would I know if the low C in the upper C, okay, this C with a foot joint or this C this way, first finger C, those two notes are critical to play in tune with each other. Once you have the head joint pulled out to the right distance to get those two notes, overtone, we're going to use the low C overtone in tune with the actual fingered C. Once you get that case, then the A is going to be whatever the scale was designed for. And that's how you know what your flute was built for. Is it A440 or A442 or 444 or whatever, 435? Those things you really need to know, because that's the only way you're going to play in tune. If you have a 435 scale, you're going to have to play with an instrument like a piano or something that has been tuned to 435 for that flute to sound right. Okay, so here's the trick, how to find that position. Over below the low C, one octave, over below the first harmonic, and then go right away to the right fingering. a electronic tuner right here on the bench, and I'm going to turn you around for a minute, and you're going to look at this tuner while I play. And you can tell the difference between the harmonic and the real fingering. The harmonic sounds different. It sounds thinner. Here's the harmonic. Here's the right fingering, open C. Well, that's pretty good. I couldn't have done much better if I tried. Now, as my A in tune, this tuner was set up for A440. So let's try A, see how it comes out. So we're within the 5-cent guideline, either side of 0, and that's easy enough for anybody to listen to. That will sound in tune to almost everybody if you're within 5 cents. So I'm going to play this scale chromatically going down, and you can see where the deviation might be, if there is any. That's pretty darn good. I think on most flutes, the run-of-the-mill flute out there, you're going to see the pitch falling flatter and flatter and flatter as you go lower and lower and lower. Not because of anything to do much with your embouchure, the way you blow, but because the scale is too long for whatever pitch it was built for. The most flutes I've seen, you end up down there somewhere. I just did that with my lips. And you're not going to be able to play very well in tune with a well-tuned piano or a oboe or a violin or a clarinet or whatever, unless you've got this instrument pulled or pushed out to just the right place for its scale. And so that's my quick demo. I'll put this back to a selfie again so you can see my face. Alright. You're actually sitting on my padding bench where my flutes would be, where I'd be working on them. So this is how I look to my flute when it's looking at me. So we've got all the notes, all the keys are working, the pads are working fine. I think that's pretty much all you really need to know and be aware of. You can watch this video as much as you want and learn these things and really keep them in your head the next time you go to a flute fair, the next time somebody offers to sell you a flute and you can say, oh, well, I don't know, I'll try it. Look for mechanical issues. Look for the intonation of the instrument at the point where it's pulled out just the right amount so that low C first overtone is in tune with the fingered normally C. And with a tuner, just look at all the notes that you're going to play when you play a concert or a recital or an audition or for your teacher, and you need to be able to play those notes in tune without struggling. I mean, when I was at the conservatory in the 60s, we didn't have a Cooper scale, and my teacher taught me, he said, well, John, we all have to learn to play each of our own flute in tune. And that was just a matter of doing a lot of this to try to tune every note all the time to make it play in tune. It was horrible. It was just horrible. Flutes were badly out of tune. So we're getting a lot better. There are other things I'd like to show you, but I don't want to go too long. So that's my deal for today. And I hope you enjoyed my selfie video. Call me or write to me on the email, and you can always find me on my web by going to my website at landelflutes.com, anywhere in the world, and send me an email. And I'd like to answer your questions and get to know you better. Thanks for watching.